wanted to do a kind of book unboxing from a company I got books from called First Book. And First Book is a really cool organization because they provide a lot of books for lower income schools and at a cheaper price. And so I'm going to show you today some of the books that I got in one of my latest orders that I got. So let's start with the picture books. And I love First Book because they have a lot of variety to choose from, a lot of diversity represented in different categories, and their website is very friendly to access and also just to navigate. So the first one here is called Carmela Full of Wishes. I had actually heard of this one before, but I have never read it, so I'm really excited to read it. This one is called Planting Stories, The Life of Librarian and Storyteller Pura Belpré. And many of the books I got have this Pura Belpré award, and I was thinking, where does this come from? I want to know the story behind it. So I saw that they were offering this book, and I was like, of course I'm gonna get this. I really want to know the history behind all of these honor books. We have a book by Pat Mora called Gracias with Thanks, also bilingual book, super cool. And I'm really wanting to expand the bilingual read alouds that I have in my class, because when I was younger I would have loved to learn Spanish in school, even if it was just a word of the day or in simple Spanish words thrown into read alouds by my teachers. This one's called I Walk with Vanessa, a story about a simple act of kindness. We have How to Read a Book, which upon first glance I was thinking, I'm not sure how this is going to, which direction they're going to take with how to read a book, but it's a very abstract book and I kind of like it. This one is mainly for younger audiences, so I would read this primarily for K through 3rd grade. It is a little bit lengthy, so maybe about 2nd, 3rd grade level. I think this will be good for. Each Kindness, Jacqueline Woodson. Love her books, and this is one I heard of in college, I believe, but I had never read it. It was recommended to me by a professor, and I am really excited that I now own it. So, Follow the Recipe, Poems about Imagination, Celebration, and Cake. Mrs. Fox's Class Goes Green. I heard about this series on Instagram actually, and a teacher called, her handle was Zero Waste Classroom, and she introduced me to some more environmentally friendly books about teaching your students about the importance of the environment. Grandpa's Stories, and I was really excited to get this one. Maybe Something Beautiful. I've heard great things about this book, and I am very excited to be able to read it, and hopefully I'll be posting some reviews soon about these once I read them all. We have New Shoes. I Know an Old Lady Who Swallowed a Pie. What Can You Do with a Paleta, which is also bilingual in Spanish. We have Sunday Shopping. The Honeybee, and I love the design of this cover. So colorful, and it has a little bit of a texture to it, kind of matte in the background, and then the leaves right here are glossy. Very aesthetically pleasing. Birthday Jitters, that I did not get to read with my students this year because I didn't have this book, but I'm so glad that I now have it and I can read it on the first day of school next year. I have Mother Bruce instead of Mother Goose. Miguel and the Grand Harmony, based off of Coco, the movie, and I love that movie because it's very diverse, and I think they did a great job of making it. some Berenstain Bears. My pile is getting larger over there. Mortimer's Christmas Manger, a book of Sam Houston, and I actually went to Sam Houston, so I of course had to get this one to represent my school. Let's move some of these. We have One Tiny Turtle, nonfiction. Seaside Dream, I think this is about Cape Verde. They live there. I haven't read this one before, and it doesn't have a blurb on the back, so I'm not entirely sure what it is about, but it's won a couple of awards, so it's probably pretty good. Vincent van Gogh is my favorite artist of all time, and I saw this and I was like, oh, well, I have to have this book because Ted Arnold is a great author and illustrator, and his pictures are really vivid inside. So these books are always great for any age group. We have Library Lion. I've heard of this one before, but have not personally read it yet. The Grand Mosque of Paris, more diverse perspectives. Ruby's Wish. Have All Around Us. And then we have some Curious George. This is also a bilingual book in English and Spanish. Now for the chapter. I love a good chapter book. Picture books are awesome, but I think chapter books are my favorite. We have some Inspector Flytrap, some thinner novels that are a little bit illustrated, so I think this is more for students to get familiar with chapter books and kind of transition from that early reader stage. Some Magic Tree House, of course, but this is a really fancy Magic Tree House. When I was little, Magic Tree House did not look like this. Magic Tree House didn't have any of this fancy gold textured lettering on the top. It was green on the top and not nearly this colorful. But I'm happy they're still making these. Have some more little chapter books. This one's a little bit thicker. Just kind of the border between a really big chapter book and a more of a Captain Underpants type one. Have Dee Dee Dodo, Future Spy. Some of these titles are really creative, like this one. And Magic Tree House, and I live in Texas, so of course we have to have the nonfiction Magic Tree House about Texas. It's a fact tracker, and I think those give a good option for people who don't necessarily like Magic Tree House or fiction, because this is nonfiction. And then something that I was lacking a little bit of in my classroom library this year was sports books. I got a couple of basketball ones this time, but they also have on the First Book website soccer, I believe, and baseball, and I think a couple other ones. But I decided to go with basketball because that's a really popular sport that my students love this year, and most of them watched it, surprisingly. We have some more Magic Tree House here, Merlin Missions, and just a regular Magic Tree House. And Merlin Missions, this wasn't even a thing when I was little. That's so fancy. One of my favorites, I know I say favorite a lot, but this is one of my ones from junior high that I read, and it had a different cover. It was a different type of book then. It's the same content inside, I believe, but I loved this book. I saw this on the website, on the First Book website, and I was thinking, is this the same book? Is it the same one that I read in junior high? And I believe it is. Just with a special anniversary introduction and a different cover. Then we have some early readers. I don't know what reading level my students are going to be on next year, especially with everything having been closed and all the online or distance learning that we had this year, I have no idea where they're going to be coming from at the beginning of next year. So I wanted to get some for everybody. This series is really great for reluctant readers. I had quite a few of them this year, and they loved the Secret Coders series. They're graphic novels. They're kind of they're a little bit illustrated, but the main focus is, I think, to have reluctant readers find stuff that they actually like to read, or it's a story about coding, so it's more science based. Then we have, I believe there's a couple more over here. Let's find them. Science comics, more graphic novels. I got the ones about the brain, sharks, and dogs. Then we have some absent author A to Z mysteries, Magic Treehouse, and some more early readers and nonfiction. We got about National Geographic, and I always love their pictures in here. They're so realistic, but they are nonfiction, so to be expected. Although I'm not teaching an older grade this year, I really wanted to get this just because it's a good book to have in your collection, The Memory of Forgotten Things. And I haven't completely read through it yet, but I'm almost done with it. And the main character is about 12. And I have a few of these more lengthy chapter books, but a great indicator as to how to decide if the book is appropriate for your students or not is to look on the back, or in the case of this hardcover one, look on the inside cover on the dust jacket for the blurb. And usually the main characters are described as a 10, 11-year-old. This one says 12-year-old Sophia Wallace, so that tells me that, okay, this is more appropriate for maybe a 5th, 6th, 7th grader, even if it doesn't necessarily say the age group on it. It does say on the bottom ages 8 to 12, but it is appropriate for more of 8 to 12, but if you're wanting to say, okay, do I want this in my library, it's all dependent on your students, of course, and their reading levels, but if you're unsure, you can always give a quick glimpse to the back cover to read it. So a couple of these are for 5th, 6th grade, but I'm going to read them because that's my favorite genre to read. And you have Inspector Flytrap, The Infamous Rat's Hose. Have some Frank Epstein, and these gave me Captain Underpants vibes, and because they have really colorful covers, and they're a bit cartoonish. And they have some pictures on the inside. They're a little more scientific, but still transitioning and helping students read or get accustomed to chapter books. Then the last few that I have are, of course, another Magic Tree House, Stepping Stones, Flora and Miranda Steal the Show, and The Great Treehouse War. And these ones are more geared towards the older audiences. And also a great teller. Let's see if I can find an example, actually. Another great teller of what kind of age group the book is appropriate for is to take a look at what's on the cover. So the cover, if it has a more realistic picture, oftentimes I find that the young adult books have real people on them, or realistic looking people. This one has more of a cartoonish, so this one is more for younger or elementary students, should I say, but it can be for older ones. I don't think I have any of those. Like this one, I would read if I was in middle school, because the characters on the front show more emotions here, and they are more geared towards the teenage kind of stereotype. But this one is more of a graphic novel. But there we have it. That's all for now, folks. I will be doing some book reviews pretty soon about some of these wonderful books that I just got. And make sure to check out First Book online if you haven't already. And thank you for watching.